Si myslím, že vojna na Ukrajine nezačala pred rokom, aj 2 mesiacmi, ale začala v roku 2014, keď ukrajinskí fašisti zabíjali občanov ruskej národnosti na Ukrajine. Mám na to názor iný. Ja som stále presvedčený, že Američania bojujú cez ukrajinských vojakov.
This is my video update from Prague, Czech Republic on this Wednesday, midday, October the 25th. Let's talk about some news. And let's start things off with that UN Security Council meeting that took place yesterday. I showed an intro clip on my video update yesterday of Anthony Blinken, the U.S. Secretary of State, and his speech at the UN Security Council. It's interesting that Blinken brings up Iraq and Syria, how U.S. troops are in Iraq and Syria and they're under threat, without mentioning that the United States is illegally occupying Syria. But anyway, Blinken probably forgot to mention that small little detail. I'm sure it wasn't intentional on Blinken's part, but boy, did the speech from the head honcho at the United Nations, Mr. Guterres, boy, did his speech really anger Israel and Nikki Haley. I think it angered Nikki Haley more than it angered Israeli officials. Guterres, in his UN speech, he condemned the appalling and inexcusable violence by Hamas. He noted that Gaza had been subjected to 56 years of suffocating occupation, and that the Israeli response to the October 7 attacks has amounted to collective punishment of Palestinians. Now let me read you an excerpt from Guterres' speech at the UN Security Council, and then I'll read you the response from Israeli officials. This is what Guterres said, quote, "I am deeply concerned about the clear violations of international humanitarian law that we are witnessing in Gaza. Let me be clear. No party to an armed conflict is above international humanitarian law," Guterres told the Security Council. He also urged an immediate humanitarian ceasefire to facilitate the release of hostages held by Hamas, deliver aid to civilians, and ease epic suffering in the Palestinian territory. So that is an excerpt of Guterres' speech at the UN Security Council. And the Israeli ambassador to the UN, Gilad Erdan, after listening to this speech from Guterres, he called on the UN Secretary General to step down, accusing him of showing compassion, that is a quote, compassion for terrorists and murderers in a speech to the UN Security Council. Here is what the Israeli ambassador said in a post on Twitter X, quote, "The UN Secretary General, who shows understanding for the campaign of mass murder of children, women, and the elderly, is not fit to lead the UN. I call on him to resign immediately. There is no justification or point in talking to those who show compassion for the most terrible atrocities committed against citizens of Israel and the Jewish people." Now, during the speech from Guterres, the Israeli delegation to the United Nations was visibly upset with everything that Guterres was saying at this UN Security Council speech. And so they are calling on the Secretary General to resign. That is what they would like to see happen. And I would imagine that any day now, Guterres is going to have to issue a statement clarifying what he said at this UN Security Council speech. And I imagine he is going to have to apologize in one form or another. In one way, he's going to have to apologize to Israel for what he said during this statement. That would be my guess, but we'll see. If that doesn't happen, then I imagine that the United States is going to tell Guterres to step down. That's what I think will probably happen if Guterres does not walk back the statements that he made at the Security Council. That would be my guess. We'll see what's going to happen. But the Israeli officials, the Israeli ambassador to the United Nations, was very, very upset. As was Nikki Haley, neocon Nikki. She was also very upset with what Gutierrez said. From the account of The Real Fly on Twitter, Nikki Haley calls for UN Secretary General Guterres to resign for saying the Hamas attacks didn't happen in a vacuum. Says he owes Israel an apology for justifying the beheading of babies. Let me find Nikki Haley's tweet here. Here we go. This is a tweet from Nikki Haley after the speech from Guterres. The Secretary General of the UN should know nothing justifies beheading babies, burning people alive, and raping young girls. He owes the people of Israel an apology. This is disgusting and disqualifies him from leading the UN. That is the statement from neocon Nikki Haley, who wants to be president of the United States. So she is calling on the Secretary General to step down as well. And someone who was president of the United States, that is one Barack Obama, he sounded off on the Israel-Hamas war and what is taking place in Gaza. And he did this via a blog post on Medium. Obama, he endorsed Biden's call to support our longtime ally in going after Hamas, dismantling its military capabilities, and freeing hostages taken on the October 7th attack. That is what Obama posted on Medium. He supports Professor Joe Biden, who was his vice president for 8 years. And then Obama sent a type of warning out to Israel and to the United States. He said that it is important that Israel's strategy abides by international law and minimizes the death, suffering of civilians, not just because it is morally just and reflects our belief in the inherent value of every human life, but because it is vital for building alliances and shaping international opinion, all of which are critical for Israel's long-term security. Obama said that the crackdown on Gaza could further harden Palestinian attitudes for generations, erode global support for Israel, and play into the hands of Israel's enemies and undermine long-term efforts to achieve peace. So that is Obama's warning, maybe not warning. I guess you could say those are Obama's words of caution to the Biden White House and to Israel. Definitely go after Hamas. That's what Obama's saying. Go after Hamas. Try to annihilate Hamas, but proceed with caution, because if you destroy too much, if you go after Hamas too hard and you destroy too much of Gaza, this is what Obama is saying in this Medium post. If you destroy too much of Gaza, well, you are going to turn the entire world against you, and you are going to harden the resolve and the attitudes of Palestinians for generations to come. Those were Obama's words of caution in this Medium post. And one of Obama's globalist buddies, who is still president of France, is little Napoleon Macron. And he decided to make a trip to Tel Aviv. And as he visited Tel Aviv, Macron brought with him a suggestion, a plan to fight Hamas. And Macron's plan to fight Hamas is to use this anti-IS force, this anti-ISIS force that is currently in the Middle East. That's what they call it, an anti-IS force. To use this force to not only fight Al-Qaeda and IS, but to also use this force to fight Hamas. France is ready for the coalition, which is fighting in Iraq and Syria against ISIS, to also fight against Hamas, Macron said. While he did not elaborate on the proposal at the time, he cautioned that operations against Hamas must be without mercy, but not without rules. Without mercy, but not without rules. How does that happen? How do you accomplish that? Macron didn't elaborate on this statement. Without mercy, but not without rules. But his plan is to use the coalition West forces that are currently in the region and are fighting against Al-Qaeda, is to use them to go after Hamas as well. To widen out the war is basically what Macron is suggesting. A coalition of the willing. We're back at a coalition of the willing. And it's interesting that Macron, in much the same way that Blinken said during his statement at the UN Security Council meeting the other day, Macron mentions a coalition force, an anti-IS military in Iraq and Syria, without mentioning that this coalition force is in this region illegally. They are occupying Syria illegally. They are not there to fight IS or to fight Al-Qaeda. They are there to occupy Syria and to steal Syria's oil. But Macron doesn't mention that in his statement. Anyway, that is the latest from Jupiter himself, little Napoleon. And as Macron was in Israel, we had Pentagon officials giving interviews in the United States, and one Pentagon official told NBC News that American troops have been targeted by drones and rockets from what they suspect are Iranian-backed militias, though they cannot confirm this. American troops were targeted by drones and rockets at least 10 times in Iraq and 3 times in Syria since October 17th, according to Pentagon officials. Washington has accused Iran-backed militias, but admitted there is no evidence to pin the blame on Tehran's leadership for ordering the attacks. 20 American troops suffered minor injuries when 2 attack drones targeting Al-Talf military base in southern Syria on October 18th. The U.S. Central Command told NBC News on Tuesday in a first confirmation of American casualties. A first confirmation of American casualties. Here we go. Here we go. They are preparing the American people for American casualties. Blinken's speech at the UN Security Council, he warned that any attacks on American bases, remember, illegally occupying American bases in Syria, that any attacks on these forces will lead to a U.S. response. What did Blinken say? The United States has the right to defend itself. Russia doesn't have the right to defend itself. The United States, though, has the right to defend itself. Anyway, that was what Blinken said. This is what the Pentagon is now building the foundation for. They're building it up. They're preparing everybody for what will inevitably be some sort of an attack on American bases in Iraq and Syria, which will, unfortunately, I hope this doesn't happen, but which could potentially lead to more casualties of American troops, more damage to these American bases, which are illegally in Syria, but no one ever mentions that. They never ever mention that these bases are occupying Syrian territory illegally, but that's not brought up. Anyway, something is going to happen. Something's going to happen to these American forces and these American troops in Iraq and Syria. And yes.
Speak English?
Yes.
Yeah, I speak English. You from here?
No.
No, I'm not from Prague. I'm from Slovakia.
From where?
Slovakia.
Okay.
East country to Bratislava.
Yes.
Bratislava. Hi, Thomas. Cheers.
Yes.
Good morning.
Cheers.
Yeah, and just a little bit about, I'm sorry you have stopped. I'm just a little bit about is your check from Prague. Is latest. kids en alle hebben het ook en die hebben 20 voor mij ticket regel to train.
I'm doing a video. I'll come back later and so I'll help you out. But I'm doing work right now. So I'll come back later and we'll talk.
Yeah, and you have 23
Yeah, let me do my video and I'll find you later and we'll talk and I'll help you out. All right, man? All right, take care. So, what was I saying? My nose is running. Anyway, let's see here. I was talking about basically what I was saying is that there's going to be some sort of an attack. There'll be some sort of false flag. I don't know. That's what they're preparing us for. That's what I believe they're preparing us for. Blinken's talking about it. Pompeo put out a tweet and he talked about it the other day. Mike Pompeo, CIA, Mike Pompeo. He's like, there's the Biden White House has to do more and our troops are in danger. All of this stuff. And now you have the Pentagon confirming that U.S. troops have been injured. I hope I'm wrong. I hope this doesn't happen, but something could happen to these U.S. troops. They're very exposed in this region as they occupy Syria illegally. They are also exposed in this region, and something could happen. And it could be an attack by militias. It could be an attack by IS. It could be an attack by Al Qaeda. It could be an attack by Hamas. It could be a false flag. I don't know. I'm just throwing out a variety of things that could happen, which could trigger a U.S. response, and then of course everything just gets out of control from there. Anyway, that was an interesting revelation from the Pentagon. They're preparing us. They are preparing us for something. For something to happen to these troops at these military bases that illegally occupy these areas, Iraq and Syria. So I guess we're now heading into like pre-clown world territory now. And the Times of London, they're reporting that soldiers in Israel who are preparing for the ground operation, they're very upset with Netanyahu's son, Yair. Netanyahu's son, Israeli Prime Minister's son, because he is hanging out in Miami doing work as an activist for a nonprofit charity work, and he's hanging out in Miami, USA, instead of going back home to Israel to take part in the ground operation that is being prepared. At the Times of London, they interviewed a bunch of soldiers who are going to be taking part in this ground operation, soldiers who are the same age as Netanyahu's son, even Israelis who were living in the United States, returning back to Israel to take part in this ground operation. At the Times of London, they interviewed all these soldiers, and they're reporting that these soldiers are very upset with the fact that Netanyahu's son is hanging out in Miami instead of coming back to Israel to fight. Prime Minister Netanyahu's son Yair is not among the 300,000 reservists mobilized for the war with Hamas, but remains in Florida doing nonprofit charity work. Several Israeli soldiers feel this is a betrayal, according to the Times of London. Yair is enjoying his life at Miami while I'm on the front lines, one soldier, a volunteer facing Hezbollah on the border with Lebanon, told the British newspaper, requesting anonymity. The soldier complained that the people responsible for this situation aren't shouldering their share of the burden, fueling distrust and anger in the ranks. Our brothers, our fathers, sons are all going to the front line, but Yair is still not here. It does not help build trust in the leadership of the country, the soldier told the Times. And they have a whole bunch of interviews of a whole bunch of soldiers basically saying the same thing. Why is he in Miami when he should be here with us preparing to invade Gaza? That's pretty much what these soldiers said. And, it plays into the narrative, and I think it is true. I think this is true that much of Israeli society, society that is for the operation and against the ground operation, they're all united in their disapproval of Netanyahu. From what I understand, and I could be wrong about this, but everything that I have read shows that Netanyahu is a very unpopular leader at this moment in time. Very unpopular. And I wouldn't be surprised if the Times of London is also making a push to weaken and eventually do away with Netanyahu. He's not very well liked inside Israel and outside Israel. Even Biden despises Netanyahu, and Netanyahu despises Biden. Though Netanyahu does have a good relationship with Putin and with China and with other world leaders. So he's in a tough position, and of course you have all of the court cases that are directed towards Netanyahu. And if he were to not be prime minister, if he were to be removed for some reason, then from what I understand, he would be facing prison time because of these various court cases directed towards him. So it's a complicated situation on a domestic level for Netanyahu. But the fact that his son is in Miami and is not in Israel fighting does not look too good. Does not reflect well on Netanyahu. Anyway, that is what the Times of London is reporting. And from one controversial leader to the clown puppet leader, we turn our attention to Elensky of Ukraine. And Elensky's one-time BFF, Mr. Arestovich, he used to be Elensky's sidekick for many TV shows and movies. He was always Elensky's trusted co-star. Well, Arestovich, he is really turning against Elensky in a big way. And I have said on multiple occasions that I believe Arestovich is controlled opposition, and that is why he has been allowed to stay alive while hanging out in Ukraine. One would think that someone who was so anti-Elensky would have been scooped up by the SBU, but nope. Arestovich is hanging around in Ukraine, traveling the world, and he is talking a whole bunch of smack against Elensky. So this guy that wanted money from me, he's like shadowing me now. He's like everywhere I'm walking, he's like following me. Oh boy. Oh man. All right. So let's continue with Elensky. So Arestovich, he gave an interview to the Polish news outlet called ODYSEE.pl. And Arestovich, he slammed his former boss, Mr. Elensky, for his increasingly overbearing behavior and believes that Elensky has fallen victim to delusions of grandeur and the belief that he is all powerful. All right, let's walk up this way. Maybe we can shake this dude that's following me. He's not a threat. He's just looking for cash. Anyway, yeah, so that's Arestovich. He cited Elensky's response to the ongoing diplomatic conflict over the dumping of Ukrainian grain as an example, accusing the president's office of behaving as if it has a decisive voice in the European Union rather than being a country aspiring to join the bloc. And you can't follow me, man. I'll come back. I'll come back. Don't follow me. Of course, I'm not going to go back. But anyway, Let's see, the former advisor, who himself is a possible candidate in any future Ukrainian presidential election, expressed his fear that Elensky has become deluded into thinking he now rules the globe. Elensky's best friend saying that the Ukraine president, his former buddy, is suffering from delusions of grandeur. And of course, Arestovich, he wants to become president. I think that Blinken, Newland, Sullivan, they're keeping Arestovich around just in case they decide to move Elensky and Arestovich can fill the void, he can fill the vacuum. All right, so let's do some clown worlds and we'll wrap up this video. We walk up this way. It's a bit windy over here. Okay, so let's start off this clown world with Jungle Joseph speaking at the foreign ministers meeting, an EU foreign ministers meeting. Jungle Joseph, he said that we, as in the collective West, the EU, we cannot allow Putin to install a puppet government in Kiev and have a Russian army on the Polish border. That is what Borrell told reporters. Borrell yesterday said, we cannot forget about Ukraine. So Jungle Joseph is in full panic mode about Project Ukraine. And he said that we cannot allow Russia to place troops on the Polish border. And I say, why not? Why not? You have NATO troops in Poland, and you have NATO troops on Russia's border. So why can't Russia have their troops close to NATO borders on Russian territory? You have U.S. troops in Poland and in the Baltic states directed at Russia, and we all know that the U.S. is far, far away. So what are those American troops or those American bases doing so close to Russia? So why can't Russia have troops directed towards NATO? And if Russia does decide to go all the way as far as Ukraine is concerned, why can't Russia put troops directly across from Poland? I mean, one side's doing it. Why can't the other side do it? And maybe, just maybe, if you have Russian troops there, so close to NATO troops in Poland, facing Russian troops in West Ukraine, maybe, just maybe, the tense atmosphere will calm things down. You know, sometimes when things are very tense, like during the Cold War, when things are very tense, sometimes things get more calm in a way as well, because people think twice before saying stupid stuff, because they can see the other guy across the border, and that other guy has his missiles and guns pointed at you. So, you know, you're a little bit more cautious when you say stuff. Maybe, just a thought. Anyway, that's what Borrell said. And Trump, he was giving a speech the other day, a campaign rally speech, and he said that Russia stole the U.S.'s super duper technology, their hypersonic missile technology. Under my leadership, we will once again protect our own people with our own missile defense system capable of blasting China, Russia, Iranian missiles out of the sky. And we will, in addition, have offensive weapons that will be second to none, Trump said. You know, Russia stole the super, we call them the super dupers, right? They go super fast. They stole that during the Obama administration, Trump added. They stole the plans and they built it. Peskov responded to this, and he said that Russia is absolutely capable of building its own missile technology. They don't need to steal U.S. Plans. That's what Peskov said in reply to this statement from Trump. But my question to Trump would be, okay, let's say you're right, Mr. President, 45. Let's say you are correct, and during Obama's tenure as president, the Russians managed to steal U.S. hypersonic missile technology. Let's just go down that hypothetical, that road. If that's the case, then how come the U.S. can't build hypersonic missiles equivalent to those of Russia if they have the plans and the tech? I mean, just because the Russians stole it, it doesn't mean that you guys can't build it either. So that would be my response to Trump on that one. And finally, we'll do a final. I want to walk into this area right here. Just curious what it is. I think this is like the theater of Prague, right through here. I'm not sure, and my curiosity is getting the better of me. That's why I came back. It's a modern building, very modern structure. And I think it's like the theater. Okay, let's do a final clown world. And the Biden White House, they the Biden White House, they were going to have a musical performance for the Australian Prime Minister, who's visiting Joe and Jill, I guess, these days. They were going to have a special musical guest, and that musical guest was going to be the B-52s at a state dinner for Australia's Prime Minister. And the Biden White House decided to cancel the musical performance of the B-52s, you know, the group that sang Love Shack. Yeah, the Biden White House, they felt that it was inappropriate to have a musical guest with the name the B-52s during these times of war and conflict. And so the Biden White House, they're just going to have just a basic instrumental musical performance for the Prime Minister of Australia, without directly referencing the devastation of the Israel-Hamas war. The First Lady announced Tuesday that we've made a few adjustments to the entertainment portion of the dinner. Instead of the band best known for Love Shack and other hits, the entertainment will be instrumental music provided by the Marine Band and the Army and Air Force Strolling Strings. Yep. No B-52s at the White House dinner for the Prime Minister of Australia. I'm sure the Prime Minister of Australia will be very disappointed. I hear he's a big Love Shack fan. All right, that's the video, everybody. theduran.locals.com. We are on Rumble, ODYSEE, BitChute, Telegram, Rockfin, and Twitter X, and go to the Duran shop. Use the code TheDuran20, 20% off all merch. I am wearing the exclusive, limited Elensky green bomber jacket. can I say bomber jacket? Let's just say jacket. Let's just say I'm wearing the Elensky green jacket, and I've also got a green Portugal long sleeve shirt today as well. I am decked out in Elensky green today. All right, that is the video, everybody. Coming to you from Prague, Czech Republic. A bit of the new and a bit of the old, side by side. All right, take care.